For those of you who think, and I actually know, that China is our number one geopolitical enemy, let it be known that we now have the documents to prove that China was constantly interfering in our elections, voting in our elections. Look at this Chinese national at the University of Michigan charged with illegally voting in the 2024 election. How often do you think this happens? You know what happened in this case? You know why I can't show you the kid's mugshot? Is because China was able to spirit this Chinese communist kid back to China, even though we had taken the kid's passport. They had an entire system of like pure espionage, straight out of a Jason Bourne film, where they were able to get a Chinese kid to vote illegally. We caught him, and then they were able, even though he was being criminally charged here, they were able to effectively extract him from the country and send him back to Beijing. We'll never see the kid again. But his vote counted. Ka-ching! There you go. China is constantly interfering in our elections. Obviously, they are constantly interfering in our country, in the way that we think, and in PSYOPs, and this is what all of the documents proved, and we've covered that extensively. I encourage you to go back and relook at how all of the messaging of BLM and of the woke is effectively predicated on left-wing involvement from America's enemies. They're never funding the right? Russia, no one's like here to like prop up the right. They're acting in a PSYOP capacity to take over the smooth brain libtards of the left. And you could see that in the actual documents from the White House that were released by the CIA and so on. All of BLM, all of the woke marches, all of Antifa, all of that stuff is funded by foreign governments. So is a lot of Democrat politicians. California mayor resigns after admitting that she's a Chinese spy. Got it. Elaine Wang. Guess who she worked for? She needs to be put in jail for they need to be put in prison for these filters. This is what I would argue. I would argue that while you are definitely a fraud and you probably committed plenty of election fraud and fraud against your constituents, that the greatest fraud perpetrated are the filters that Chinese women use. But that's a separate altogether. Of course, it's not just Democrats. Elaine Chao, who's the wife of Mitch McConnell, many say his Chinese handler, of course, has massive ties to China. Details surface about Senator Dianne Feinstein and the Chinese spy who worked for her. Oh, interesting. Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell blackmailed by Chinese mistress. Obviously, we know this. But that's not what lost him the California governor's race, remember? Right? It was all, if he just stuck with the Chinese spies, he would have been fine. The Fang Fang Bang Bangs. It was actually hooking up with all of the staff that was a problem. Dirty scumbag. Ex-top aide to Kathy Hochul was a secret Chinese agent. Wow, I'm starting to sense a trend here. Kamala Harris's VP choice, Tim Walz, secret fling with the daughter of a Chinese communist while teaching in China. Oh. I'm a Stanford student and Chinese spy tried to recruit me. Okay. God. And of course, they're voting. If we've caught one Chinese national voting, and have you been to a university campus? Like half the students are Chinese. If we've caught one Chinese national voting, then how many Chinese nationals are voting in our critical swing states? This was in Michigan, a reminder. Anyway, the Chinese are doing everything that they possibly can to take over our nation. And now we found out through Natalie Winters' incredible reporting here, top American generals formed a secret back channel with the CCP, with the Communist Party Chinese military. And they were instructed, we wish you would advocate positions favorable to China. Some ended up on China's payroll. Wow, would you look at this? 1 million views, 7,000 reposts, 14,000 likes. And this is not good. Let's see if we recognize any of the names there. Ray Odierno, remember him, right? Some of these CENTCOM commander, Joint Chiefs, former Joint Chiefs chairman, former Army Joint Chief. There they are with their literal Chinese handlers. A reminder that Mark Milley went in front of Congress and broke into tears again, being asked about the time that he informed China's military about Donald Trump's military actions. My task was to de-escalate. Beijing fears of U.S. attack prompted calls to Chinese generals. Top U.S. military officers on Tuesday defended phone calls that they had with the Chinese during a turbulent final week of Donald Trump's presidency, revealing that U.S. intel officials believed the Chinese were worried about an attack. Mark Milley, a chair of the Joint Chiefs, told members of the Senate that he had 2 phone calls with Chinese General Li Zhaozhang, one on October 30th and one on January 8th, 2 days after the Trump mob stormed the Capitol. They were part of his duties to de-conflict military actions, manage crisis, and prevent war between great powers with nuclear weapons. The phone calls were first reported in the Bob Woodward book, intended to reassure the Chinese and the U.S. would not suddenly launch an attack. According to the authors, Milley, fearful that Trump could act erratically in his final days in office, told Lee that he would warn him if the U.S. planned to attack China. Okay. Like, again, why is this guy not in a cell in Guantanamo Bay right now, awaiting the death sentence after a court-martial finds him guilty of treason? Why? Like, isn't that treason? Like, de facto? If the president makes a decision that I'm going to warn the enemies? Well, that's what Natalie Winters has figured out. Top American generals joined CCP spy front back channel, pushing China's military agenda in Washington and ending up on China's payroll. For more than a decade, former chairman, Joint Chiefs, combat commanders, cabinet officials, Congress participated in military dialogue organized with the Chinese group by congressional investigators as a front to engage in intelligence collection and propaganda and perception management. Some ended up on China's payroll. The Chinese Communist Party did not need to penetrate the Pentagon to gain access to America's military leadership. It just built a private network around it. For decades, some of the most powerful officials in the United States participated in closed-doors meetings with senior Chinese officials. The discussions covered Taiwan, South China Sea, military defense, cybersecurity, and the relation between the two militaries. American participants include all of these people. Wow. Who should have their ranks, who should be, field stripped, right? With their rank dressed down. The glossy brochures framed it as peaceful exchange between retired American and Chinese generals. Photographs showed senior officials chatting in Hawaiian shirts. But the initiative was not organized for a veterans association. It was funded by effectively a spy front organization by the Chinese, what everything is. And it was used for CCP influence. Oh, and Hillary Clinton's involved. Perfect. Look at that. Direct influence pipeline into the American communist movement. It brings U.S. Marxists to China, trains them in party doctrine, and connects them with CCP officials. Why would we ever allow this? Why would our country ever allow ourselves to be colonized? That's what this is. It's colonization. This is legally defined as treason. Real journalism. That's right. Natalie Winters deserves a ton of credit for this. Continues hitting it out of the park. Wouldn't this be considered treason? Treason. That are known as treason. China has been trying to buy retired American flag officers. Anyway, give Natalie Winters a follow. She did incredible work on this report. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to get serious as a country. Otherwise, we're cooked. But yeah, I like this. Like, we're being colonized. Like, that's what's actually happening. We're being colonized. No one could beat us militarily. It'd be a very, very bloody, horrible battle. But you can just colonize our nation and then destroy it from within. That's exactly what's happening. Like, share, subscribe if you don't want that to happen as we fight on.